So he sent me what looked like an ID badge with his picture, probably not him, his name. It said that he was an investigator. But when I went to the bank after it was over with, and I took everything that I saved and let her look at the picture on my phone, she didn't even look at it for 4 seconds when she said, well, this should have gave it away. And I go, what? And where it said New York, in abbreviations.
Yes.
The first New York was NY in capital letters. The second one was in
lowercase. Yeah, that's
lowercase. And she goes, that should have never been.
Incorrect grammar.
English language is an indicator of
She
fraud.
said, that's phony right off the bat.
Yes, the incorrect use of...
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't even look at that.
And you don't see it sometimes.
I don't know about those things.
This is one of the ideas. I don't think it was Reagan. Maybe trust but verify. Like it was. It was over Russian arms. You know, we can trust people, but then we want to verify. You know, many times we may trust someone, but independently verify those feelings, those thoughts, those ideas that you're trusting. Then you can go independently verify them. And some of the things we're talking about, going to another person at the bank and talking to them like you did, right? And so that person helped you.
So Frank,
but it was after the damage was done.
Oh, yeah, it was too late.
Later, right.
So Frank, speaking of layers of protection, I'm trying to get on your laptop to read these statistics, and there's a pin that requires a pin. Okay. I got the first one. Okay. Oh boy, this is like a test. He doesn't want to give it over the air. Oh, it says pin was incorrect. I got it wrong. Okay, you come do it. So I wanted to give, a few more statistics about fraud because it's actually really alarming. And even, we're talking about Melvin and his experience, and you're hearing Melvin. Melvin he is long from being, not being coherent, or he's independent. Like, you're with it. This can happen to anybody. You don't have to technically be a senior, and you certainly don't have to be elderly or in need of care. You could just be at work.
I can work my TV remote all day.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But it happens.
Local news a lot of times does a good job letting people know what the current scams are. I've seen them on the local news many times.
Yes.
So we'll let you know what fraud is going on.
So it sounds like one of the popular ones going on, because we've had 2 clients tell this story. It's where they call and they say they're a grandchild. So I would call and say, Melvin, this is, Katie, your granddaughter, and the name will be accurate.
Right.
They get the name. I'm stuck out in California and I got to get a plane ticket home. Please don't tell my mom and dad. They don't know I'm here. I need you to send me money to the CVS, blah, blah, blah. And they go and have grandma or grandpa sending money out to who they think is their granddaughter. So it's important that you figure. So the one lady said, oh, well, why didn't you call your brother Jake or something? Which is, oh, he didn't answer, whatever the response was, but they never had the brother, so test them, throw out questions to see if they go along with it.
Trust but verify.
But verify, and don't cooperate.
Take any actions until you verify.
You have to verify, because it's just sad what links they'll go to. And I feel like for you, this was also, I know if I spoke to the same person day after day, and then they just ghosted me after and just left me. What is the emotional? Obviously the financial thing is hard enough, but what was that feeling like that next day when you wake up and just can't believe that this person that you've been trusting all this time has betrayed you?
I just kept thinking that when all these investigators, like the woman that left the message that made him drop me the next day,
mm-hmm.
When he read that, he must have knew that they were on to him, because it was about my account.
Yes.
So they saw the irregularities before I was smart enough to figure it out. And
But it was it was a real roller coaster for you, emotionally, mentally,
Absolutely.
probably physically as well. Draining, right? A draining experience.
And then realizing I'd been had and in denial when he admitted to me what he did, it's
like a dream.
What did he say? I mean, what was the point of him admitting?
He texted me and said, point blank, "You've been scammed." And I'm not thinking that he's saying he scammed me.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts telling me how to protect myself.
Which is, what did he tell you?
All the things that you ought to do and report to the bank and blah, blah, blah. Everything he told me not to do.
Initially.
Before.
Yes.
But at this point, he already had the money. And now he's telling you, do this and maybe they'll get you your money back, but not from him. Like, what was the point of him telling you to go through these steps?
22,000, he said he did not receive, but if I stuck with it, there's a chance if I fight for it, I'll get it back.
So so what you're saying is he began to give you real good advice in ways that potentially could help you.
It sounded like hope.
Right.
But when I called these places, they didn't receive it. And Mindie, when you looked at my paperwork, I don't know which one you looked at, even permission on one of them.
One of your...
you said, why did you give permission to this person? And I'm going, I don't know what you're talking about. And you showed me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. But was it based on your... but that was it for your bank accounts? Because your other investments, they were not... affected.
No, but listen to me.
Okay.
He wanted information on my annuities.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you're laughing.
I told him to call you.
Yeah. Yeah, and he never called me.
Of course not.
Right.
Now,
okay.
I said she handles my investments and stuff and my annuities. You might talk to her about it because I'm not certain. And he says, oh, no problem.
But he never reached out to me. Okay, I do remember that.
He knew that you'd probably go.
Not. Yes.
Well, we're on the air live today on the Mindie Molina Show with Melvin. We're talking about fraud and scams. If you have a story or a question you'd like to call in, the number here at the station is 772-221-1100. 772-221-1100. And we're with Mindie Molina, Investments in Insurance at the Mindie Molina Show. You can reach us at mindiemolina.com, MINDIE, to look us up, schedule an appointment to meet with us. All our consultations are no cost. And we'll sit and we specialize in retirement planning. This is the Mindie Molina Show.
So thank you, Frank. We are here with Melvin. He's been sharing his story about how he was a victim of fraud and scamming, and they took how much money?
About 36,000.
About 36,000.
30,000 altogether. 10 in one bank and 20 in the other. A little over on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he had me buying these gift cards.
Right.
To the tune of about 5, maybe 6,000. And, I should have known when he said scratch it off and take a picture.
Right.
Let me see it.
Here's another option for you. Many times today, another option for you put in your toolbox in any of our listening audiences, we can merge calls today. Say, just wait a second. I'm going to bring somebody else on the phone. I don't know if it's very simple to do. I don't know about other than an iPhone. An iPhone is very easy to have a 3-party, 4-party call. You can just merge the phone call. Say, hey, I'd like to bring my brother or my, whoever, my financial advisor, my, banker.
Yeah, maybe someone that's not emotionally connected to the situation, like your financial advisor.
If you're a suspect,
we're reading these statistics. Like, for example, this one by the AARP Fraud Watch Network says that
Is
Yes.
effective over. Yeah,
Unbelievable. And then the FBI's internet crime, because let's think about it. It probably all starts with online.
Yeah.
Crime Complaint Center reports that in 2020, seniors over the age of 60 reported more than $966 million in losses from internet crimes. So from losing money on the internet. Again, you're not the only one. That's why I'm so thankful that you're willing to come on and share your story, because I think it comes like there has to be this feeling of shame, or like it's not something that people are proud of. And I want you to know it's not your fault. Listen to these numbers. $36 billion. This is a serious, serious issue. And I know you. I know your personality. I've known you for years, and to know that if it could happen to you, it could for sure happen to anyone.
Americans are notoriously great givers. I believe there's not a country on the
and
earth
we're trusting.
that gives more charity than the United States.
We're trusting too, and it's just really, really, really unfortunate. And one of the things that I wanted to let you talk about too was, how did it end? What did the bank do for you? Have you been able to recover any of your losses? Has anything ever happened?
No, nothing. One of the loan officers at the bank said that there's so much of this going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just this country. It's overwhelming all the institutions, because when one person's successful, well,
it's motivation.
The ants come to the feast.
Right. Yeah. So this one guy makes this much money on you. His friends are like, oh, I want to get in the game of scamming and being fraudulent.
They could be a community that works together. It's like when he sent me to talk to another person. Again, it was an Indian. And I think one time I even talked to a girl. I don't even know what it was about.
They were training on you.
But, and they told me at the bank, these people commune together, and that's all that they do. Like he would tell me, right now, one of his cases, a woman lost $500,000.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm a small fry.
So on average, I just read another statistic. This is TrueLink Financial found that women lose twice as much. So I also think that that's a target. They prey on that. And then also the average is 34,200. That's right. And that's you, right?
Right.
So think about that. If you take $36.5 billion, divide that by 34,000, get the calculator out, Frank. Come on. How many people is that? So if there was $36.5 billion lost to fraud like this, financial exploitation, and the average was 34,000, I mean, that's so many people. Obviously, that number isn't going to be exactly accurate, but let's think, it is a lot. Wow. So you're one person out of many multitudes of people that have suffered from this.
When you think about how many millionaires, multimillionaires, even billionaires that live here in Florida,
mm-hmm.
you think to yourself, gosh, I'm a small fry.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe those people that have $1 billion or millions, they know how to protect themselves.
Well, let me ask you this. And not disclosing any numbers, but obviously I know your net worth. I don't even know how to read that number.
It's 1,106,060
So over 1 million people.
Yeah.
You're just one out of 1 million. It's really, really sad. And that's why I really appreciate you sharing this story, because it is powerful. We have thousands and thousands of listeners, and they're hearing this. And if anything, they're not feeling so bad because it happened to them, or they're being reminded of how cautious they need to be. People are thinking about their parents who are maybe vulnerable, like mom and dad that are at home. So it's a good reminder. And it's also a lot of lesson in this. And let me ask you this question. I know your overall net worth and what you had in the bank. Do you believe that if you had all of your money in the bank, that it would have, where would it have ended? Would it have ended at 35,000, or do you think they would have taken everything that was in there?
I was so bought in, I probably would have given him everything.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I'd get mad and stomp and throw a fit and call him names, and he just had this cool, calm Mr. Newman, Mr. Newman. And you need to calm down.
Melvin, was there a time early on that you had this little bit of doubt deep down in there that did you remember that time potentially when there was something you thought that maybe was not just quite right early on?
Well, every time
that Holy Spirit, that the conscience, that witness in your spirit that maybe something's not quite right.
Well, when I got mad and I told you that, I said, you haven't shown me anything to prove that you're who you claim to be. And he sent me that, looked like a name tag.
Like a credential.
Was after you had moved some money?
Oh yeah, I'd done moved money, but there was still money.
There were several times where you felt like you were questioning and you were trying to get affirmation, and he gave it to you.
And I kept saying, I don't understand why I can't report it to the bank. Well, if it's somebody at the bank that's trying to clean you out. And I'm sitting there thinking, but in my mind, I kept thinking, but if I report this to them, they'd keep an eye on it.
Right. Yeah.
I would think.
Absolutely.
But see,
he had a way.
Had this way to,
so that's
all right,
the big
let
one.
it out, get mad.
When they break in and they get your confidence, we need to really, especially if this is someone you never met before, for all the people that are listening, right? You have someone that you've never met before that is gaining your confidence. You need to tell somebody about what's going on.
Yeah.
Especially before you ever make any action.
I teach my children, adults don't ask kids for help. Right? Like, it's not normal. So if any adult is asking you to help them do something, that's
Unless your prosthetic fell off.
Even then,
You can't get up.
you don't help them. It's different. If you're a guest in my home and you ask for help or something, it's different. But if we're at the park and somebody is asking them for help, their response is, adults don't. I am not allowed to help an adult. I will get my mom and she will help you. She will get your arm and put it back on you. I'm not allowed to help you. Period. That is the rule.
That's a great rule. Yeah. And
the rule needs to be for anyone, right? That when you receive a phone call, no matter what they say to you, they are not creditable until you've spoke with someone in person to verify them. So if you would have walked into the bank and the lady behind the counter would have said, oh yes, Mr. Newman, that's our president of investigation and you need to work with him.
You never know who's on the other side of that phone.
It just needs to be a physical person to confirm, and that would have changed the fate of your story, I believe. And that's what changed it.
For the age of this information age, where you have all these millions probably of Americans who are banking and doing all their business without brick and mortar institutions that they can walk into.
Here's the other issue. You can't put all your money in the bank. Why? As your financial advisor, he never got past me. He didn't even try. Financial advisors are not being gone after for fraud or scams.
Sure hope not. I haven't heard any.
Right? We can look up the statistics, but
well, Bernie
Madoff, he's his own story. But you know what I'm saying? Like, people from India are not calling me and saying, Mindie, give me Melvin's money because of this or that.
Ask yourself, how do you even get my phone number?
Yeah, the web. This is the thing. This is the thing about being on unsecured networks. Like, if you're on the internet,
Mhm.
right, and you're not on a secure network, and you're typing in any of your personal, personal identifiable information, PII.
Yes.
Like the government has rules and regulations for all these things, but if you're on an unsecure network, putting in your name, your address, your phone number, this is how it gets to the dark web.
And they see my date of birth.
Yeah, all that
And they
stuff.
have, there's a psychology, like a psychological process that they use,
Yes.
that they study, that they have mastered to be able to control your next move. They know how to make you feel like, number one, they're trustworthy. That number two, there's a sense of urgency here that you are in trouble. You believe it. You fill in the gaps, like you said about, well, I was on this dating site. Well, he didn't know that, maybe that's where he got his information.
Another way is don't ever answer a phone call from a number that you don't know or it's not in your contact list. If it's an important enough piece of business, if you have voicemail, they'll leave you a voicemail.
Did they leave you voicemails?
That's another layer of protection for you.
Yeah, because why would they? I guess that makes sense. Like no voicemail would be no tracking.
Well, here's one thing to remember.
Yes.
Whether it's Social Security, anything government, anything bank, hospital, government, you're going to get a letter. You're not going to get a phone call from a faceless person.
Right. Good point.
If anything, you'll get a warning, maybe. But generally, they always say, no, you receive a letter first. It'll have a contact number on that letter.
Right. And so you're listening to
go
the
ahead.
Mindie Molina Show. If you want to call in with your fraud or scam story and share with us to your listening audience, you can call into the Mindie Molina Show. This is a live broadcast. You can call in at 772-221-1100. The number is 772-221-1100. We're here taking calls for another 8 or 9 minutes.
So one of the statistics here is goes along with what you were just saying. And this is from the National Institute on Aging. And it reports that the most common scams targeting seniors include healthcare fraud. So they trick you because it's something to do with your healthcare, right? And investment scams. We just met with the lady, got caught up in the Woodbridge scam, right? That was a big thing. And it's just that you're getting tricked into an investment that's not accurate or regulated, and it's too good to be true, like Bernie Madoff. And then also, so we got healthcare fraud, investment scams, sweepstakes, and lottery scams. And I think the most important thing to do is to have that line, like you said, about getting someone else involved, having a second party so you can remove that emotional tie to it. And I also believe that the moment that they see that you're going to involve someone that, like your daughter, your financial advisor would be huge, but in investment scams, sometimes there's a lot of people in this industry. It's a very predatory industry, being financial advisors.
This is a Christian program, so there's certainly some biblical advice is pray without ceasing. And, always having that prayerful spirit when you have this encounter. We can call upon the Spirit of God and ask for discernment, for wisdom, like your brother James says.
I think using the rule of thumb, just to kind of put it in maybe 1 or 2, 3 steps. What are some, let's come up with 3 ways that people can protect themselves or steps they can take. Number 1, I am always going to say, especially in today's environment, don't have too much money in the bank. There's not enough layers of defense. Okay. It's too accessible. A bank account is designed for 2 reasons. When you look at your overall financial picture, you should say, this is my expense account. This is my emergency money. And then this is my nest egg. The bank should only be holding money that is for your expenses, which is your checking account. Okay. Money coming in, money coming out. And then an emergency fund, which could be a money market or savings account. That's it. That could be 20,000. Some people feel comfortable with 150,000, whatever your comfort number is. That's it. Everything else needs to be protected. That's in the nest egg by a brokerage account or an annuity. Now, Melvin, you have annuities. So speak to this. How easy would it have been for him to access that money?
Well, if he'd actually called you, probably not.
No.
I would have to do the footwork at that point in time. Of course, I'm at a point now that you mentioned money, especially anything to do with mine.
Right.
Uh,
It's like
What-
post-traumatic syndrome.
It's not up for conversation.
Yeah. Yes.
But, and everybody says, God, you're taking it awful well.
It's faith.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's your faith.
What should I do? Should I jump off a bridge,
No.
cut my wrist?
And God makes good of all things, and I want you to know that. I know the Christian that you are and the man of God that you are, and I admire you. I respect you. I think you're amazing, and it breaks my heart that this happened to you. But I do believe that sometimes things happen, and God makes great of it. He can make good of it, and you're going to be okay. It's really unfortunate, but I'm proud of you for how you have handled it.
So
And-
one of the steps that's coming to mind, especially if you're
Yeah.
living on your own, before you make significant moves of money in your accounts, maybe you should include some trusted family member or a financial advisor or a trusted person to include in those actions before you make those decisions. If you're especially elderly, living on your own, many times some people are widows or widowers living on their own, don't make those decisions by yourself with a complete stranger who contacted you.
Yeah, and I get it. And here's the thing. I know that a lot of us, we're very private about our money. We don't want to call our kids. We don't want to involve our children.
Call your banker then. Or your
And
financial
I
advisor.
think it's that
Anybody.
face-to-face thing, like going into the bank and make sure everything's done in person. Like you are going to make moves to protect your money because you've been told something bad is happening. Even if you do it alone and you don't feel comfortable involving your family or friends at the time. Like, for example, you said I was on this dating site. You start to feel, even myself, I'm a financial advisor and pulled over in a parking lot and the cops are telling me I'm about to go to jail. I have a warrant for my arrest. You know how embarrassing and shameful that would be? I didn't want anybody to know. The last thing I was going to do is call someone. I wanted to fix it.
Trust but
Figure
verify.
out. I know.
Trust but verify.
And I had to do it on my own, but
Yeah.
definitely it took a while for it to click with me, and it could happen to anyone. So for sure, it is what it is, but it's a scary world that we're living in, and we have to be aware and know what these scams can be. Like, for example, this guy telling you he is an investigator for your bank. It probably at some point you told him where you banked.
Well, it started,
that's one question I always ask myself. How did we get to Chase? That part of my brain is,
he was looking at your online traffic, I would imagine.
Or you told him.
Well, I did have on my phone my Chase account, which half the time I could never figure out how to look at it. I depend on my statements.
Mm-hmm.
And so perhaps he was already looking at that stuff. I don't know.
Or in conversation. I'm telling you, it's psychological, and they are able to get the answers that they're looking for, and you give them information without realizing you're even giving it. So be aware, be very aware. This is the Mindie Molina Show. Thank you so much for joining. Melvin, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Mindy.
Yes, and sharing your story. I know that's a lot to ask, and I'm really, really grateful that you were able to share that with us. And if you need any assistance or if you have any issues, feel free to reach out, mindiemolina.com, MINDIEMOLINA. And remember, God loves you, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Have a great night.
Amen.